Though the Beatles' brushes with the law are relatively few compared to the standards of most rock stars, they aren't above spending some time in jail, especially Paul McCartney. So how many times has Paul McCartney been arrested? Despite having a comparatively wholesome public image in an era where more and more bands were openly flaunting their reckless lifestyles, the Beatles were far from saints. It's a well-known fact that they used all sorts of illicit substances, even before they became internationally famous. And while the Fab Four were clean-cut compared to many other rock stars who would follow in their wake, they did rack up quite a few arrests, both before and after their 1970 breakup. John Lennon was arrested just once, thanks to the efforts of controversial British detective Norman Pilcher. The musician-busting cop, who was allegedly name-checked in the lyrics of I Am the Walrus, was also behind the arrest of George Harrison and his then-wife Pattie Boyd. That arrest came months later and was also for drug possession. And while Lennon and his wife Yoko Ono were staying at Ringo Starr's apartment at the time of their arrest, the drummer has yet to get on the authorities' bad side. That leaves Paul McCartney as the runaway leader in Beatles arrests. All in all, Paul McCartney has been arrested a total of 6 times. While he hasn't run afoul of the law in quite some time, he was only 18 years old when he first caught the attention of the police. The incident happened on November 29, 1960, weeks after a series of gigs at the Kaiser Keller Club in Hamburg, Germany, that ended with the club's owner Bruno Koschmider terminating the Beatles' contract. John Lennon and then bassist Stuart Sutcliffe had already moved out of Koschmider's Bambino Cinema when George Harrison was deported back to England for being underage. That left Paul McCartney and Pete Best as the only 2 Beatles who hadn't moved their belongings yet. It isn't clear what type of object McCartney and Best lit on fire as they tried to gather their stuff. Unfortunately, though, the fire they started spread to one of the cinema's walls. In a moment of good luck, the wall was so damp that the fire didn't spread, so the damage was minimal. However, Koschmider felt that McCartney and Best deliberately tried to burn down the Bambino. The 2 young musicians were then arrested on suspicion of arson, and they spent the night in jail before being deported the next day. Unlike some of the other Beatles, Paul McCartney stayed out of legal trouble throughout the rest of the 1960s. He did, however, rack up a series of arrests for drug possession after the Fab Four disbanded. This started with an arrest in Sweden on August 10, 1972, after authorities found close to a half-pound of hashish in one of his bandmates' parcels following a Wings concert. 7 months later, in March 1973, the cops apprehended the former Beatle for illegal cultivation of marijuana on his farm in Scotland. He got a $240 fine and was temporarily denied a U.S. visa as a result of the arrest. And speaking of America, that's where he was busted 2 years later, when McCartney and his wife Linda were both arrested for marijuana possession in Los Angeles. The most notorious of McCartney's drug arrests took place on January 16, 1980, when customs officers at the Tokyo airport found some weed hidden in his luggage. It was enough to charge him for smuggling.
The 37-year-old rock star was arrested at Narita Airport after almost half a pound of marijuana was found in one of his suitcases.
Although he faced a possible prison sentence of 7 years, McCartney only spent 9 days at the Tokyo Narcotics Detention Center before he was released and deported. In a deleted scene from his carpool karaoke appearance with the Late Late Show host James Corden, McCartney looked back on the experience, admitting that his celebrity status helped him avoid jail time. That wasn't the last of McCartney's brushes with the law. His final arrest happened exactly 4 years after the Tokyo arrest. He and Linda were busted in Barbados for marijuana possession once again. It looks like the celebrated musician might never learn his lesson that illegal drugs and rock stars always seem to attract the attention of the authorities. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more grunge videos about your favorite rock stars are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.